Good evening, Jimmy here in Chicago. Hope everybody's doing well. Tonight, before I head out, I want to drop a short story on the brothers, some of the brothers of the Chicago outfit. Some of the guys that lived, breathed, and believed in that life, while the other brother wanted nothing to do with that. Now, unfortunately, I've never had any brothers. I've got three wonderful sisters. I used to tease my mom. I would call her Little Chick. I would say, Little Chick, you should have had more sons, less drama. But even though I didn't have any brothers, I was very fortunate to have a lot of cousins, uncles, and good friends. So that's what we're going to talk about. Some of the brother relationships pertaining to the Chicago outfit. If you guys like my Chicago mob trial stories, please hit the like button, subscribe, share with your friends. I always enjoy reading your comments. And bro, don't be shy. If you want to donate, that's fine. I appreciate it. But before we get into today's story, I want to introduce you to a book that I just read by a good friend of mine. She's actually a follower, a supporter of my channel, Mary. Tales from the Patch. This is a good read. It's an easy read, just under 200 pages. And Mary tells really funny, interesting stories about what it was like growing up in the Grand Avenue neighborhood. She's got a lot of really cool stories about her experiences with Joey the Clown Lombardo, Frank Collada, and other staples in the Grand Avenue neighborhood. But check out her book, Tales from the Patch. You can find it on Amazon. And then let me know what you think. Another book I would highly recommend, I just finished it, is Brothers, written by 70-year-old Alex Van Halen. He writes his biography about what it was like for him and his brother coming here from Denmark to the United States. Their father was a musician that toured the world. Obviously, they had talent. Talks about their struggle. They eventually became one of the biggest rock and roll bands in America. I was a big fan of Van Halen. I was very fortunate to see him in their prime with David Lee Roth in the 80s, and I've seen him a few times with Sammy Hagar. But check out this book. It's a really good book written by Alex Van Halen. He talks about the passing of his late brother, younger brother, Eddie Van Halen. And this book gave me the idea to drop tonight's story about brothers, blood brothers of the Chicago outfit. So let's get into it. Two great books, Brothers by Alex Van Halen and Tales from the Patch. You can find these both on Amazon. But now let's start to go back to the good old days, right? You got Public Enemy number one, Al Scarface Capone, and his brother Ralph Bottles Capone. We all know Al Capone shelved New York City, came to Chicago, and started the Chicago outfit, surrounded himself with men like Gus Alex, Sam Alex, Jake Guzak, Tony Accardo, Battaglia. Eventually, he got pinched for tax evasion. Shortly after that, he passes away. But you can still see Al Capone's homes right here in Chicago and also in Miami. But a lot of people never even heard of Ralph Capone, the older brother, born in Italy. And unlike his brother Al, Bottles was just the opposite. Very quiet, very low key. He actually had a very successful beverage company in the city of Chicago that made hundreds of millions of dollars. But here's two founders, if you will, two brothers, Al Capone and his brother Ralphie Capone. And let's keep it in the family. Al Capone's cousins, you got the Fischetti brothers. These guys were machine gun killers for the Capone gang and pretty much wiped out most of the Capone gang ops, meaning a lot of the Irish and Jewish gangs. But here you got the Fischetti brothers of the Chicago outfit. And then right there in the Taylor Street crew, you got the notorious Genna brothers. OG gangsters going back to the Prohibition days. One day I'll do a story dedicated just to the Genna brothers and how notorious and vicious they were. Now here's two brothers. A lot of people didn't even know that Tony Accardo, boss of all bosses, had a brother, Martin Accardo. Martin Accardo, like Ralphie Capone, flew under the government's radar. There's not much information about him. There's hardly any pictures of this man. Very quiet, very low-key, kind of like a Carlo Gambino type of guy. During the Kiefer Senate hearings, he pled the fifth over 40 times. They eventually pinched him on tax evasion and did like 3 years in Leavenworth. And we all know the legendary boss of all bosses, Tony Accardo, a.k.a. JB Joe Batters. This was Al Capone's, he was right-hand man, if you will, his favorite bodyguard. This made this man, like Samuel Volpendenzo said at the Mike Sarno trial on tape, he was complaining about the crew, and he said that these guys are all paupers and that Tony Accardo made millions. And that's a fact. Tony Accardo made hundreds of millions of dollars, stepped away from the Chicago outfit at the right time, never killed, and never spent one in jail. But here's two very powerful brothers, the Accardo brothers. Now let's continue with brothers. Two high-ranking associates of the Chicago outfit, never made members because they were Greek. You got the Alex brothers. On the far right, in the blue sport jacket, you got Gus Alex. That was the very first trial I went to in 1992. Gus Alex was 76 years old at the time. And then right next to him, sitting down with the maroon sport jacket, a man you never hear of, Sam Alex. Now, this is one of my favorite photos. You're looking at some of the most powerful men, not only in the city of Chicago, the state of Illinois, but in the country back then. On the far left, in the white shirt, you got made member of the Chicago outfit, came to this country from Italy. You got Pat Marcy. Now, I went to the Alderman Rohde Pat Marcy trial, but Pat Marcy was too sick to stand trial. But he was convicted. But this guy here, everything went through him. If you had a private judge, a city state official, a businessman, they handed out sweetheart contracts, multi-million-dollar contracts, no-show jobs, city jobs, state jobs, liquor licenses, permits, zonings, you name it. That's Pat Marcy. Right next to him, you got boss of all bosses, Tony Accardo, a.k.a. JB, or his friends call him Joe. I mean, just look at the tan on that man. And like the master blaster Samuel Volpendenzo said at the Mike Sarno trial, when they caught him on tape, he was complaining about the large crew, how he was supposed to work for the North Side crew, and he was saying that these guys are all paupers and that Tony Accardo made millions of dollars. And that's true. Not only did Accardo make millions of dollars, but he never spent one night in jail. Right next to him, his right-hand man, you got Jack Cerone. Next to him, you got boss of the Chicago outfit, Joey Aiuppa, the old man. This guy led the Chicago mob with an iron fist, led with violence. But I show this photo because first of all, look at how each man is smiling, grinning from ear to ear. And I love how you got Iupa's got his arm around the Gus Alex, buddy. And then you got Sam Alex in the maroon jacket leaning on Tony Accardo's leg. And then you got Tony Accardo having his arm resting on Sam Alex. I mean, just look how close and tight these men were. But I'm going to do a separate story on the Alex brothers, Sam Alex and Gus Alex. Every man in this photo goes back to the Al Capone gang except for Jack Cerone. Now, speaking with the Alex brothers, we're going to talk about two very powerful associates, if you will. Another Greek brothers, you got the Bordis brothers. You got Michael Bordis and Steve Bordis. Now, these guys, they came to this country, couldn't even speak English, worked their asses off in the restaurant business. And one of their restaurants was kind of like a counselor's row. It's where a lot of the judges, politicians, aldermen, wise guys, businessmen all hung out. So they met a lot of people, built a lot of good connections, and they were very smart. They started donating to certain politicians' campaigns and eventually started getting a lot of political power and influence. For example, Michael Bordis was given the job as one of the head bailiffs in Cook County. He was the number one guy that signed off on bond, if you will. He was given a gun and a Cook County Sheriff badge. They handed those out like candy to certain people. Two of their sons are both All-American football players from the University of Michigan. One of their sons turned down a football career because their fathers needed help in their business. So fast forward, these guys eventually got out of the restaurant business. As you all know, a lot of Greeks in Chicago made fortunes in the restaurant business. And Gus Alex and Sam Alex helped a lot of the young Greek men out. They kind of gave them a startup so they could open up certain businesses. Another thing, they provided all the bologna sandwiches to the Cook County Jail. Imagine that contract. They also had a contract where they supplied coffee and donuts to all the court buildings downtown. But that's how politically connected the Bordis brothers were. I did a lot of work for these guys. Great men to have coffee with. But as far as paying, don't think you're going to get a lot of money out of these guys. One time I happened to bring up the name Gus Alex in the office, and Steve Bordis told me, don't ever mention that man's name again. He gave me a lecture. That man is in prison. He's behind bars. But Steve Bordis, Michael Bordis were very good friends with Sam and Gus Alex. But God bless all these legends who passed away. Let's keep talking about brothers. You got Mad Sam DeStefano and his brother Mario DeStefano. In the middle, you got a young Tony Spilotro. Now, Mad Sam DeStefano, this guy was worse than Satan himself. I would compare him to somebody like Roy DeMeo. Not only did he like to kill people, but he enjoyed torturing them as well. The outfit bosses had enough of his nonsense, and they actually had him killed. But they had Tony Spilotro and Mario, his own brother, Mario DeStefano, the guy smoking the pipe. They tricked Mad Sam and actually shotgun blasted him right there in his garage, blowing off his arm. But Mario was a Chicago outfit associate, loan shark, career criminal for over 40 years. He eventually got pinched for the murder of Leo Foreman, but then it was actually overturned on the appellate. Fast forward, Mario DeStefano died in 1975 of a heart attack. But him and Mad Sam DeStefano were two lethal brothers of the Chicago mob. Speaking of lethal brothers, we got Angelo the Bull LaPetria and his brother Jimmy LaPetria. And like some of these other guys, nobody even knew about Jimmy LaPetria. His name hardly ever came up. I first learned about him at the Family Secrets trial. He was talked about quite a bit. And according to Nick Calabrese, he did a lot of heavy work for the crew. He was one of the men that participated in the brutal beatdown of the Spilotros. If you believe Nick Calabrese's testimony, at first he said he didn't know who picked him up and brought him to the house in Bensonville. Then he said he couldn't remember. Then he said it was Jimmy Marcelo. He claimed Jimmy Marcelo picked up little Jimmy LaPetria, brother Jimmy LaPetria, John Feccarata, and Nick Calabrese, and drove them and dropped them off at the house in Bensonville. But brother Jimmy was Angelo's pretty much his right-hand man, his younger brother. We all know the story about the bull. This guy, one time, when he shelved the guy, he stabbed him right in the shoulder with a spike. That was his way of shelving the guy. According to some of the outfit guys and associates, nobody liked to be around this man. He held court at the social club right then in Bridgeport. But this is Angelo LaPetria and his brother Jimmy. Now here's a great photo of boss of the 26th Street crew, Angelo the Bull LaPetria. And then you got Frank Calabrese and Nick Calabrese, two made members, brothers of the Chicago outfit. Angelo said to his brother that something should be done about the Calabrese brothers, meaning they should have clipped them, shelved them, or broke them up, but they never got a chance to. And Angelo the Bull was 1,000% correct, because Nick Calabrese, as we all know, eventually flipped, cooperated, and testified against his brother Frank Calabrese. But here's two brothers, and I'm sure Frank Calabrese, the older brother, the bully, was verbally and physically abusive to his younger brother Nick, probably got him into the life as well, maybe not 1,000%. But here's two blood brothers, and the younger brother, who did not want to die in jail, did not want to get the electric chair, decides to testify in court against his own brother. Now we'll keep going. Here's two brothers. These guys were very close, right? You got Michael Spilotro and Tony Spilotro. And a lot of Chicago outfit guys, bosses, made guys and associates, acquaintances, most of them like these two guys. But we all know what happened. They got lured to a house in Bensonville, and they were brutally beaten and stomped to death. Two victims of the Chicago outfit. One of the brothers, as we all know, was heavily involved in the life. The other dabbled in the life. But eventually, Chicago outfit bosses, Joey Aiuppa, gave the order and had them both killed. That's two brothers, two blood brothers that were killed by the Chicago outfit. And then their older brother, who was supposed to be one of the toughest brothers, Pat Spilotro, was a dentist. He was also an FBI informant, working with the FBI, trying to help solve the murder of his brothers. He eventually flipped and testified and told the FBI where Joey Lombardo was hiding out when Joey was on the lam. But again, God bless the Spilotro brothers, two victims of the Chicago outfit. Now, two more brothers. A lot of brothers in the Chicago outfit. You got Carmine and his brother Sal Bastone, both made members. These guys made a fortune in gambling, loan sharking, juice, extortion, you know, the usual. And I'm sure they did some heavy work. They pretty much controlled corrupt police chief Michael Corbett. But these guys made a fortune in the video poker machine business, and not just video poker machines, but pool tables, vending machines, cigarette machines, pinball machines, anything coin related, they controlled it. And it wasn't just city of Chicago, but the surrounding states as well. They even got involved in Nicaragua, Panama, anywhere where there was a U.S. military base. They had vending machines, coin operated machines, because a lot of soldiers, as we all know, when they have time off, they like to gamble and play games. So that was lucrative business for the Bastone brothers. They were tight with high-ranking Chicago outfit associate High Alarmer. Actually, I'll do a story on the Bastone brothers at a later date. Then here's the younger one right here. Michael Corbett eventually flipped, testified against him, Marco D'Amico, Alan Masters, and several others. But again, the Bastone brothers, two main members of the Chicago outfit. We'll keep going here. Here's two more main members of the Chicago outfit, actually bosses of the Elmwood Park crew, the Northside crew. You got John No-Nos Defronzo. No-Nos pretty much made a fortune, not only in the rackets, but also legitimately, specifically in the car business. And then you got his right-hand man, Greedy Pete Defronzo. Both of these men served time in prison, so the myth that these guys are informants is total nonsense. Both stand-up men. They both made millions of dollars legitimately and through the rackets. Pete Defronzo and his brother John Defronzo. God bless the Defronzo brothers. As we all know, Pete Defronzo has a very successful construction company. But two heavyweights in the Chicago outfit as well. Now here's two more brothers. One of them chose the life. The other one wanted nothing to do with the life. I've seen both of these men. I've seen Joey Lombardo. I think it was 2007 at the Family Secrets trial. Kind of hard to recognize at first. He was small. He was frail. He was thin, clean cut. He had the Caesar haircut on. Very older, but still charming, funny as hell, and quite the character. As we all know, Joey went away in the 70s for bribing a Nevada senator. Did his time like a man. Never cooperated or anything like that. Comes home in the early 1992 and keeps a very low profile, only to get pinched in 2005 for the murder of Danny Seifert. And then right there, his younger brother, Rocky Lombardo. I seen Rocky Lombardo one time at Rosebud many years ago, and he looks just like his brother Joe. But Rocco is a legitimate guy, smart enough never to take a pinch or get involved into that life. But God bless the Lombardo brothers, two brothers here in Chicago. We'll keep it in the neighborhood. You got Chicago outfit associate, old friend of mine, Mikey Switek, and then his younger brother, Joe Switek. Mikey Switek, as we all know, got pinched, got framed for selling weapons to undercover FBI ATF agents, and then did some heavy time. I think over 20 years this man did in federal prison. Never ratted, never rolled, stand-up guy. Came home. He ran the club over there on Grand and May for years. I'll never forget having talked with him, smoking, hanging out with him and the guys at the hardware store. Same with his brother Joe, stand-up guy, real character. Joe is a collector of antiques and has one of the best Italian subs in the city. But God bless Mikey Switek and his brother Joey Switek. Now here we go. We got Meade member Chicago outfit, a guy I actually seen a few times at his first trial during the Sam Carlisi trial, and then years later during the Family Secret trial. You got alleged Chicago outfit boss James Little Jimmy Marcelo, and this man for some reason is being held in the ADX Supermax. I think just because he's labeled organized crime boss, they automatically send him there. There's no reason for Jimmy Marcelo to be in a maximum security prison. But I bring up Jimmy Marcelo because his younger brother, Mikey Marcelo, Blue Trial stood up, was kind of like Jimmy's messenger on the streets, his number one go-to guy. In fact, the judge complimented Mikey Marcelo The only thing he's guilty of is being a good brother to his older brother, Jimmy. But Mikey Marcello and Jimmy Marcello, two brothers of the Chicago Outfits. I think hopefully Jimmy Marcello can get released one day on compassionate release. But I will never forget when they showed the prison videotapes of Mikey Marcello visiting his brother Jimmy Marcello in Milan, Michigan, talking in code, talking about Nick Calabrese, talking about the babysitter, talking about the clown, talking about the indictment coming up, talking about other guys like Trucker. But God bless Jimmy Marcello and his brother Mikey Marcello. Now here you got the Caruso brothers, right? These guys, big time union guys, very powerful family in the city of Chicago. We'll keep going with the Palumbo brothers, right? These guys made millions of dollars in paving all the highways in the city and the Chicago and state of Illinois. They eventually took a pinch. They did a couple of years in prison, paid millions of dollars in fines and restitutions, and then they reopened it with a different name. But the Palumbo brothers made members of Chicago Outfit and a very, very powerful, wealthy family. Now here's a couple brothers, right? You got Junior Calabrese, who got involved in that life, dabbled in cocaine, not only selling it, but was addicted to it, was under the strict rules of his father, eventually did some light work for his father, did some time in prison, claimed he was doing real good time in prison, and put together a plan. He hatched a plan. And that plan was he wanted to steal all his father's money and lock him away for life. And that's exactly what he did. He wrote a letter to the FBI. At first, they didn't take him serious. They eventually did. The FBI flew out to the prison. They wired him up. And Frankie Calabrese Jr. got his father to talk about murders on tape. Frank Calabrese should have known better, but Jr. conned his father. He pitted his Uncle Nick against him. We all know Jr. testified against his own father and against other people in the Chicago Outfit. I'll never forget the first time I seen Jr. in court. He was one of the first witnesses called. He was so nervous, he was white as a ghost. And just imagine seeing Frank Calabrese 10 feet away glaring back at him. Now Jr. is all about looking for a movie deal, doing interviews, and writing books. And then just the opposite, his younger brother, Kurt Calabrese, who you never hear about, decided, you know what, he's not going to follow in the footstep of his father, his uncle, or his brother. First time I seen Kurt Calabrese was at the Family Secrets trial. I sat next to him or close to him every day he was in court, and I felt sorry for him. I thought for sure this guy could maybe even have a heart attack. Just imagine he had his uncle testifying, his own brother, and then his father, who was calling him out in court. Kurt Calabrese does not agree with what his brother Junior did, and he definitely suffered and felt the aftermath, all the damage that Junior did. But God bless Kurt Calabrese. He's turned his life around. He's a family man, a good man from what I hear, and I hope and pray one day I'll get a chance to meet him. I want to apologize to him in person and hopefully ask him for an interview. But here's the Calabrese brothers. I'm sure they miss their father. I can't even imagine what it was like growing up with that man. Now we're going to go to New York. Lots of brothers in the New York crime families. You got Joe and John Gambino. This guy's made millions of dollars just in the garment district alone. You got the Gotti brothers. You got three of them, right? We got the legendary John Gotti, his brother Pete Gotti, who was boss of the Gambinos at one time. And then on the right, you got Gene Gotti. Unfortunately, Gene Gotti got busted for drugs back in the day. And under the orders of the Gambino boss, his own brother John, he was told not to accept any pleas. And this guy did decades in prison. If he would have pled, he would have got out a long time ago. But Gene's stand-up guy to the end. All the Gottis are stand-up men. I don't care what you say about them. But God bless the Gotti family. But there's three brothers made members: John Gotti, his brother Pete Gotti, and Gene Gotti. Gene Gotti just got home not too long ago. And then you got Angelo Quack Quack Ruggiero. It was his big mouth. His phones at home were tapped. He didn't know it. He was talking about certain New York mob guys, talking about his drug activities. He eventually got pinched, but a lot of that was because of that rat Willie Boy Johnson. Willie Boy Johnson hated Angelo Quack Quack and tipped him off. And he had a brother, Sal Ruggiero, that really wasn't an organized crime guy, but was a major heroin dealer, one of the largest in the country. And this guy suspiciously died in a plane accident with his wife. And then we all know Angelo Quack Quack eventually died of cancer. But one thing about him, he would have went to prison and died. He would have never ratted like Sammy Gravano did. But here's the Ruggiero brothers, right? And then you got these two scumbags here, right? These guys, spoiled brats, spoiled rich kids, couldn't really handle a strict father who wanted the best for them. But once they found out the father was going to cut them out of the will because they were fucking up, that's when the planning started. They went out of state and had a friend buy the shotguns and the ammunition. Fast forward, Mr. and Mrs. Menendez were relaxing, nice quiet evening, watching TV. These two maniacs walked in the living room, shotgun blasted them. They actually stopped, reloaded, blasted them again. Their mother was crawling away. Kyle, whatever the fuck his name is, walked up and blasted her right in the neck and in the head. Once the handcuffs were put on them, they said, that they were sexually molested. The first trial was a hung jury. That's because it's in LA. You got all those liberals. Rob Blake not guilty. OJ not guilty. Menendez brothers not guilty. But then they tried him a second time, and they were both found guilty. 100% guilty. It's a shame they don't have the death penalty for these two monsters. But now they're trying to release them. And a lot of people think they served enough time. People believe the bullshit. They were molested. And a lot of people are fighting for their release. Now, I don't think they should be released ever. They literally shotgun blasted both mom and dad. Now, there's no proof that they were molested. And even if they were, it doesn't give you the right to kill your parents. But if they're going to release these guys, I think they should release men like Mike Sarno, Nick Gio, men like Vinny Gorgeous, Jimmy Marcelo. So if they're going to release these two guys for killing their parents, there's also a lot of other men in prison, non-violent guys that need to be released as well. But let's do a little recap here really quick, and I'll let you guys go. Again, check out the book, Tales from the Patch. Want to hear some really cool Grand Avenue neighborhood stories? You can buy this on Amazon. If you're an old Van Halen fan, check out the book Alex Van Halen wrote about the late, great Eddie Van Halen. You got the Capone brothers, Ralphie Capone. Then you got Al Scarface, the Fischetti brothers, Al Capone's cousins. You got the Genna brothers. I'll do a story about these guys. Tony Accardo, his younger brother Martin Accardo, Gus Alex, Sam Alex, my good friends, the late Michael and Steve Bordis, good friends with DiArco, Pat Marcy, Gus Alex, Sam Alex. You got the satanic Mad Sam DeStefano, little Tony Spilotro, Mario DeStefano, brother Jimmy LaPetria, Angelo LaPetria from the 26th Street crew. You got the notorious Calabrese brothers, right? Nicky Calabrese testifies against his own brother, Frank Calabrese. You got the Spilotro brothers, both of them brutally beaten and stomped to death. You got the Bastone brothers, right? These guys made millions of dollars in gambling and the coin operating business. Speaking of millions, you got John known as Defronzo and Peter Greedy Defronzo. Again, made millions of dollars. I don't know if Joey and Rocco made millions, but two brothers here, legends in the Chicago Grand Avenue neighborhood. God bless Mikey Switek, his brother Joe. Little Jimmy Marcelo, his brother Mikey Marcelo. Both of them still alive. It's time to bring this man home. The Carusos, Palumbos, Frankie and Kurt Calabrese. Hopefully one day maybe these guys can make amends. I'm not sure, though. Got the Gambinos, Gotti brothers, Quack Quack, his brother Sal, and then these scumbags here. But that's it. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your support. Hit the like button, subscribe. Check out those books. I'm working on some more content. Everybody have a great week. Ciao.